Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the UHS Defiance, watching the stars drift past the main viewing screen. The exploration vessel had been on routine patrol for 3 weeks, checking on the outer human colonies scattered across this section of space. It was quiet work. But Jake knew how important these settlements were to humanity's expansion among the stars. Lieutenant Amy Brooks turned from her console at the communications station. Her face was tight with concern. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from Kepler 44 to B. It's the mining colony there." Jake straightened in his chair. The mining colony on Kepler 44 to B was one of the newest human settlements, established only 5 years ago. About 200 colonists lived there, harvesting rare minerals from the planet's crust. "Put it through, Amy." The signal crackled with static, but Jake could make out a woman's voice, desperate and frightened. "This is Dr. Helen Grant on Kepler 442b. We need immediate assistance. They took our children. Please, someone help us. The Zephyrians came 3 days ago and they took 12 of our children. We don't know what to do." The message cut off into static. Jake felt his blood run cold. Children. Someone had taken children. "Amy, try to re-establish contact." "Ryan, set course for Kepler 44b. Maximum speed." Commander Ryan Cole, the ship's chief engineer, quickly input the navigation commands. The Defiance's engines hummed louder as the ship changed direction and accelerated. "The Zephyrians," Amy asked, working at her console. "Captain, those are the insect-like aliens from the Zephyrian Empire. They're known for being very strict about galactic law." Jake nodded grimly. He had dealt with the Zephyrians before. They were a rigid species that valued order and rules above everything else. They saw the galaxy as a place that needed to be controlled and organized according to their laws. Most other species found them difficult to work with because they refused to bend their rules for any reason. "How long until we reach the colony?" Jake asked. 6 hours at current speed," Ryan replied from the engineering station. "Too long?" Jake muttered. He pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, this is the captain. We have an emergency situation at the Kepler 44b colony. Children are in danger. I want everyone at their stations and ready for anything." Amy finally managed to clear up the communication signal. "Captain, I have Dr. Grant on the line." "Dr. Grant, this is Captain Morrison of the UHS Defiance. We received your distress call. Can you tell me exactly what happened?" Dr. Helen Grant's voice came through much clearer now, though she still sounded shaken. "Captain Morrison, thank goodness. 3 days ago, a Zephyrian enforcement ship arrived in orbit. They claimed our colony was in violation of some territorial agreement. We tried to explain that we had proper authorization from Earth Command, but they wouldn't listen." "What about the children, Doctor?" "It took 12 of them, Captain, ages 8 to 16. They said the children were evidence of our illegal settlement. They're holding them on their ship." Her voice broke slightly. "These children were born here, Captain. This is their home. They've never even seen Earth." Jake's hands tightened on his chair arms. The idea of taking children as evidence was beyond his understanding. "Have you been able to contact Earth Command?" "We tried, but our long-range communications were damaged in a storm last week." "You're the first ship to respond to our distress call. We'll be there in 6 hours, Doctor. Have you had any contact with the children since they were taken?" "No, Captain. Zephyrians won't let us communicate with them. They won't even tell us if they're safe." The desperation in her voice was clear. Jake closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of his own daughter back on Earth. She was grown now, but he remembered when she was young how protective he had felt. The thought of alien beings taking human children filled him with anger. "Doctor, we're going to get those children back. Can you tell me anything about the Zephyrian ship? It's one of their enforcement vessels." "Gray and angular, about twice the size of a standard human cruiser. It's been maintaining orbit on the far side of the planet." "Understood. We'll contact you again when we arrive." Morrison out. Jake turned to Amy. "Get me Earth Command on the long-range communication array. Priority Alpha." While Amy worked to establish the connection, Jake called Ryan over to the command area. "Ryan, what do you know about Zephyrian enforcement ships?" "They're tough, Captain. Heavy shields and weapons designed for intimidation, but they're not really built for ship-to-ship combat. They rely more on their authority and reputation, too. Get compliance, good. What about their holding facilities? That's where it gets tricky. Zephyrian ships are designed to transport prisoners, but they're built for Zephyrian physiology. The environmental systems might not be suitable for human children. Jake felt his anger growing stronger. Mean the children might be endangered just from being on their ship? It's possible, Captain. Zephyrians need different air mixtures, different temperatures. If they haven't adjusted their systems, Captain Amy interrupted. I have Admiral Lisa Hayes from Earth Command. The main screen flickered and showed Admiral Hayes sitting at her desk at Earth Command headquarters. She was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Captain Morrison, I received your priority message. What's the situation? Jake quickly explained what they had learned about the detained children. As he spoke, he watched the Admiral's expression grow more serious. Captain, this is a delicate situation. The Zephyrian Empire is officially at peace with humanity, but their interpretation of galactic law can be very different from ours. If we act too aggressively, it could cause diplomatic problems. Admiral, with respect, these are human children we're talking about. They're being held against their will by aliens who might not even understand human biology. I understand your concern, Captain, but I need you to handle this carefully. Try diplomatic contact first. I'll begin working through official channels, but that process could take weeks. Jake felt frustration building in his chest. Weeks, Admiral. These children could be in serious danger right now. I know, Captain, but we have to consider the bigger picture. A war with the Zephyrian Empire would put millions of human lives at risk. What are my orders, Admiral? Make contact with the Zephyrian commander? Try to negotiate the children's release? But do not take any aggressive action without my direct authorization. Is that clear? Jake wanted to argue, but he knew the Admiral was right about the diplomatic complications. Understood, Admiral. But if those children are in immediate danger, then you do what you have to do, Captain. But try diplomacy first. Hayes out. The communication ended, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. He understood the need for caution, but the idea of children being held prisoner made his protective instincts scream for action. Captain Amy called out. We'll be arriving at Kepler 44 to be in 4 hours. Good, Amy. I want you to prepare a formal, diplomatic message to the Zephyrian commander. Ryan, run a full diagnostic on our weapons and shield systems. I want to be ready for anything. As the Defiance raced through space toward the mining colony, Jake stared out at the stars and thought about the 12 human, lone somewhere out there alone and frightened. He had no idea what the Zephyrians intended to do with them, but he knew one thing for certain. He was going to bring those children home, no matter what it took. Commander Thylex 9 stood in the central control room of the Zephyrian enforcement vessel Rigid Order. His forearms moved across different control panels as he reviewed the reports from his detention facility. The ship hung in orbit around the human colony world, its dark gray hull reflecting the planet's pale sunlight. Thylex-9 was a typical Zephyrian, standing 7 feet tall with a hard shell covering his insect-like body. His large compound eyes could see in multiple directions at once, and his mandibles clicked together when he was thinking. Like all of his species, he believed that order and law were the most important things in the universe. Sub-Commander Velox-3. Report on the detained specimens. Thylex-9 commanded. Velox-3 approached the command platform. He was younger than his commander and smaller in size, but he had studied other species more than most Zephyrians. Commander, the 12 human offspring remain in detention cells 7 through 19. They continue to make noise and leak water from their optical organs. Crying, Thylex-9 said with distaste. Such emotional displays are inefficient. Have they provided any useful information about the illegal settlement? No, Commander. They claimed they were born on the planet's surface. They do not seem to understand that their existence proves the humans violated the territorial agreement. Thylex-9 clicked his mandibles in annoyance. Humans were one of the most difficult species to deal with. They were unpredictable, emotional, and refused to follow proper procedures. The fact that they had established a colony in disputed territory was typical of their chaotic nature. What is the status of their physical condition? The commander asked. Velox-3 hesitated for a moment. They appeared to be experiencing stress responses. Their body temperatures have been irregular, and several have refused to consume the nutrition blocks we provided. Refuse nutrition? That is illogical. They require sustenance to maintain biological function. Yes, Commander. But human biology may be different from what we understand. The youngest specimen, designated as Emma Unit, has shown signs of weakness. Thylex 9 waved one of his forearms dismissively. Weakness is expected in inferior species. Continue monitoring them. They must remain functional until the tribunal can examine them. In the detention area of the ship, 16-year-old Katie Williams sat on the hard metal floor of her cell. The walls were smooth and gray, with no windows and only a small opening where the aliens pushed in food and water. The air smelled strange and made her throat hurt. Katie could hear the other children in nearby cells. Some of the younger ones were still crying, though they had been doing it for 3 days now. 10-year-old Emma Carter was in the cell next to hers, and Katie was worried about her. Emma had been getting sicker each day. Double quotes, Emma, are you okay? Katie called through the wall. I don't feel good, Emma's small voice replied. My head hurts and I can't stop shaking. Katie pressed her face against the small gap between her cell and Emma's. She could see the little girl curled up on the floor, trembling. Try to drink some water, Emma, and eat something if you can. The food tastes terrible. It's like eating dirt. 14-year-old Danny Cross spoke up from another cell. Katie, we need to do something. Emma's getting worse, and some of the other kids are getting sick too. Katie felt helpless. She was the oldest, and the other children looked to her for guidance. But what could she do? They were trapped on an alien ship with creatures that didn't seem to care if they lived or died. The detention area door opened with a harsh grinding sound. Sub-Commander Velox entered, followed by 2 Zephyrian guards. Katie had seen him before. He was smaller than the other aliens, and something about the way he moved seemed different. Velox approached Emma's cell and looked down at the sick child. His large compound eyes moved as he studied her condition. Emma was curled in a ball, shivering despite the warm temperature of the ship. Why is this unit malfunctioning? Velox asked one of his guards. Unknown Sub-Commander. Environmental. Systems are functioning normally. Velox continued to stare at Emma. He had been studying human behavior for several cycles, trying to understand their strange customs. Like most Zephyrians, he found other species interesting rather than just problematic. Human offspring. Velox said, speaking to Katie. Why does this small one not consume nutrition? Katie looked up at the alien with a mixture of fear and anger. Her name is Emma, and she's sick because you're keeping us in these horrible cells. We're not animals. We need proper food and clean air. And you are evidence of illegal colonization, Velox interrupted. Your individual designations are irrelevant. We have names, Katie said firmly. I'm Katie Williams. It's Emma Carter. We're people, not things. Velox tilted his head, a gesture he had learned from watching human behavior recordings. The concept of individual identity was strange to Zephyrians. They identified themselves and others by function and rank, not by personal names. These names serve what purpose? He asked. They're who we are, Danny Cross called out from his cell. Don't you have names? I am Sub-Commander Velox. My function determines my identity. Katie felt a small spark of hope. This alien was actually talking to them, not just treating them like objects. Don't you understand? We're not evidence of anything. We're children. We were born on that planet. It's our home. Velox considered this. In Zephyrian society, offspring were raised in communal nurseries until they were old enough to receive their function assignments. The idea of emotional attachment between adults and their young was foreign to him. The adult humans on the planet surface have made numerous communication attempts, he said. They claim you belong to them. Those are our parents, Katie explained. They love us and take care of us. They must be so worried. Love. Velox repeated the word carefully. It had encountered this concept in his studies, but had never understood its practical purpose. Yes, love. Don't your parents love you? Zephyrian adults deposit genetic material in communal breeding facilities. Individual offspring are not tracked or associated with specific contributors. Katie stared at him in shock. You don't know who your parents are? Such knowledge would serve no function. All Zephyrians serve the state equally. For the first time since being captured, Katie felt sorry for one of their captors. The idea of growing up without parents, without anyone to love you or care about you, seemed terrible to her. "That's so sad," she said quietly. Velox 3 was confused by her response. "Sad? This is an inefficient emotional state. Why would you experience it regarding my genetic origins?" "Because everyone deserves to be loved," Katie replied. "Everyone deserves to have someone who cares about them." Emma's weak voice came from her cell. "Katie, I'm really sick. I think I need a doctor." Velox 3 looked at the small human again. Her condition had clearly worsened since his last inspection. Her skin had changed color, and her breathing seemed labored. "What is wrong with this unit?" he asked Katie. "Emma needs human medical care. She needs the right kind of food and air that won't hurt her lungs. She needs her parents." Katie's voice was getting desperate. "Please, can't you let us talk to them? Can't you get her help?" Velox 3 felt something strange, an unfamiliar sensation in his thinking patterns. Watching the small human suffer was creating an uncomfortable reaction in his mind. He'd never experienced anything like it before. "I must report to the commander," he said, turning to leave. "Wait," Katie called after him. "What's going to happen to us?" Velox 3 paused at the door. "You will remain here until the tribunal decides your fate. The legal process must be followed." "How long will that take?" "Several cycles, perhaps many cycles." Katie felt her heart sink. Emma couldn't survive many more days in these conditions, let alone weeks or months. After the aliens left, Danny spoke up again. "Katie, that one seemed different, like he actually listened to what you said." Katie nodded, though she wasn't sure if it mattered. "Maybe, but Emma's getting worse. I need to find a way to get help." In his personal quarters, Velox 3 sat at his desk and reviewed the detention records. The conversation with the human offspring had disturbed him in ways he didn't understand. The small one called Emma was clearly experiencing biological distress. But Zephyrian medical facilities were not designed for human physiology. He accessed his computer and began researching human biology, particularly human offspring care requirements. What he found concerned him. Human children needed specific environmental conditions, proper nutrition, and something called emotional support. To maintain health, the detention cells provided none of these things. -3 realized that the human offspring might die before the tribunal could examine them. And for the first time in his life, the thought of unnecessary death bothered him greatly. The UHS Defiance dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler 4 for 2B, just as the system's star was setting behind the planet. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, looking at the main screen that showed the mining colony on the planet's surface and the dark Zephyrian ship in orbit on the far side. Amy opened a channel to Dr. Grant at the colony. Jake ordered. Dr. Helen Grant's face appeared on the screen, looked tired and worried, with dark circles under her eyes. "Captain Morrison, thank goodness you're here. The situation has gotten worse." "What's happened, Doctor?" "We haven't heard anything from our children in 3 days. Some of the parents tried to contact the alien ship directly, but they won't respond. And yesterday, we detected some kind of medical emergency signal from their ship." Jake felt his stomach tighten. "Medical emergency?" "We think one of the children is seriously ill. Our sensors picked up what looked like distress calls, but we can't be sure." "Captain, these children have never been off the planet. They don't know how to handle alien environments. We're going to get them back, Doctor. I promise you that." Jake turned to his crew. "Amy, try to establish contact with the Zephyrian ship. Use all diplomatic protocols." While Amy worked at her station, Ryan Cole approached the captain. "Jake, I've been scanning their ship. It's definitely an enforcement vessel, but I'm picking up some strange readings from their detention area." "What kind of readings?" "The environmental systems seem to be struggling, like they're trying to maintain multiple atmosphere types at once. If they haven't properly adjusted their life support for human children..." Jake didn't need Ryan to finish the sentence. He could imagine what might be happening to those kids. Captain Amy called out. "I have the Zephyrian commander on the line." The The screen changed to show Commander Thylex 9 in his command center. His insect-like appearance and cold compound eyes made Jake's skin crawl, but he forced himself to remain calm. I am Captain Morrison of the human vessel Defiance. You are holding 12 human children against their will. I demand their immediate release. The Lex 9's mandibles clicked together in what might have been amusement. Human Captain, you are in no position to make demands. The offspring in question are evidence of illegal colonization activities. They will be held until a proper tribunal can examine them. Those children are not evidence. They are human beings with rights under galactic law. They are biological proof of treaty violations. Their rights are secondary to legal procedures. Jake felt his anger rising, but he kept his voice steady. Commander, we have reason to believe that one of the children is seriously ill. Human children require specific care that your ship cannot provide. The specimens are being maintained in acceptable conditions. Any biological weakness is not our concern, not your concern. Jake's control started to slip. We're talking about a sick child. We are talking about evidence in a legal proceeding. The tribunal will determine their fate when it convenes. When will that be? Such proceedings require proper time for preparation. Perhaps 6 to 8 cycles. Jake did quick math in his head. Zephyrian cycles were roughly equivalent to human months. You're talking about keeping children locked up for 6 months or more. If necessary, the law must be followed precisely. The communication ended abruptly as Thylex 9 cut the connection. Jake stared at the blank screen, his hands clenched into fists. Aboard the Zephyrian ship, Subcommander Vilox 3 hurried through the corridors toward the detention area. He had spent the night researching human biology and was deeply troubled by what he had learned. Human children were far more fragile than Zephyrian offspring and required careful attention to survive. When he reached the detention cells, he immediately went to Emma Carter's cell. The 10-year-old girl was lying motionless on the floor, her breathing shallow and rapid. Her skin had turned a pale color that Vilox 3's research told him was very dangerous. Human offspring designated immunit. He called through the cell door. Respond. Emma didn't move. Katie Williams pressed her face against the small opening in her cell wall. She's been like that since this morning, Katie said, her voice full of fear. She won't wake up. She needs a doctor right now. Vilox 3 opened Emma's cell and knelt beside her small form. It brought a portable medical scanner, one of the few devices on the ship that could analyze non-Cephorian biology. The readings made his concern grow stronger. Her biological systems are failing, he said, more to himself than to Katie. Then help her, Katie shouted. Get her to your medical bay, Zephyrian. Medical facilities are not designed for human physiology. Treatment could cause more harm. Then let us go back to the planet. The colony has human doctors. Vilox 3 looked at the sick child, then at Katie's desperate face. The research he had done showed that human offspring had strong emotional bonds with their adult caretakers. Separation from parents caused severe stress that could lead to physical illness. I must consult with the commander, he said. Please, Katie begged. Don't let her die. Vilox 3 left the detention area and made his way to the command center. Commander Thylex 9 was reviewing legal documents when his subordinate approached. Commander, the small human specimen is experiencing critical biological failure. Her systems are shutting down. Thylex 9 barely looked up from his work and replaced her with one of the other specimens. 12 pieces of evidence are excessive. Anyway, replace her, Commander. If one unit fails, select another. The legal requirements only specify that evidence of human presence be available for the tribunal. Vilox 3 felt that strange sensation again, stronger this time. The idea of allowing the small human to die when it might be preventable seemed wrong to him. Commander, perhaps we should consider allowing medical treatment. Dead evidence serves no purpose. Living evidence serves no greater purpose if it complicates our procedures. The humans will attempt to use medical concerns as leverage for negotiation. We cannot allow such manipulation. But, Commander, the research I have conducted suggests that human offspring require specific care to survive. If we continue current detention procedures, more may experience biological failure. Thylex 9, finally, looked up at his subordinate. Subcommander, your concern for the specimens is noted but irrelevant. Our mission is to maintain order and follow legal procedures. Emotional considerations are not part of our function. Yes, Commander, but ... double quotes, no further discussion. Continue monitoring the specimens. If they expire, document the time and cause. For the tribunal records, Velox 3 left the command center feeling more confused than ever. In all his cycles of service, he had never questioned orders or procedures. But watching the human offspring suffer was creating reactions in his mind that he didn't understand. On the planet's surface, Dr. Helen Grant stood in the colony's communication center with Pete Carter, Emma's father. Pete was a big man who worked in the mining operations, but right now he looked helpless and desperate. "Doctor, we have to do something," Pete said, his voice shaking. Emma's up there getting sicker, and these aliens don't care if she lives or dies. The human ship is trying to negotiate with them, Pete. Captain Morrison seems determined to help. Negotiate? Pete's voice rose. "My little girl might be dying, and we're negotiating. No, I'm taking a shuttle up there myself." "Pete, that's suicide. Their ship has weapons that could destroy a mining shuttle in seconds." "Then what do you suggest, Doc? That we just wait here while Emma dies?" Dr. Grant didn't have an answer. She had been in contact with Captain Morrison, providing him with medical information about the children, but the Zephyrians seemed completely unwilling to consider human needs. Other parents had gathered in the communication center. Mary Williams, Katie's mother, was crying quietly while her husband Tom paced back and forth. The Rodriguez family stood together, holding each other for comfort. "We should all go," Tom Williams said suddenly. "Take every shuttle we have and demand our children back." "That would be declaring war on the Zephyrian Empire," Dr. Grant warned. "Earth Command would never approve." "Earth Command isn't here," Pete Carter said grimly. "Our children are?" Back on the Defiance, Captain Morrison was having a heated conversation with Admiral Hayes via long-range communication. "Admiral, one of the children is dying. The aliens refuse to provide medical treatment or allow us to help. Captain, I understand your frustration, but we must be careful. I'm working through diplomatic channels, but these things take time. Time is exactly what we don't have." "Admiral, if this was your granddaughter up there, what would you do?" Admiral Hayes was quiet for a long moment. "Captain, you have my authorization to take any necessary action to protect those children. Understand that if you use force against the Zephyrians, it could have serious consequences." "Understood, Admiral." Morrison out. Jake turned to his crew. "Amy, try one more time to contact the Zephyrian commander. Make it clear that we consider this a humanitarian emergency." The response from Thylex 9 was even more dismissive than before. The alien commander made it clear that no, human concerns would change their procedures. That's when the proximity alarms started sounding. Ryan Cole checked his sensors and looked up with surprise. "Captain, we have multiple small craft approaching from the planet. It looks like mining shuttles." Captain Jake Morrison watched in horror as the 6 mining shuttles from the planet approached the massive Zephyrian ship. He knew those small civilian craft had no weapons and no shields. If the aliens decided to fire on them, the parents inside would be killed instantly. "Amy, open a channel to all shuttles immediately," Jake ordered. Pete Carter's voice came through the communication system first. "Captain Morrison, we can't wait any longer. My Emma is dying up there, and I'm going too. Get her back." "Pete, listen to me carefully. That alien ship has enough firepower to destroy all of you in seconds. You need to turn around right now. Not without our children, Captain. We've tried talking. We've tried waiting. Now we're going to act." Tom Williams' voice joined the conversation. "Captain, with respect, these are our kids. We're not going home without them." Jake understood their desperation completely, but he also knew they were flying towards certain death. "All shuttles. This is a direct order. Return to the planet immediately." "That's not a request. You're not our commanding officer, Captain," Pete replied. "We're civilians, and these are our children." On the Zephyrian ship, Commander Thylex 9 watched the approaching shuttles with growing irritation. The humans were proving to be even more troublesome than he had expected. Subcommander Velox 3, The human vessels are approaching without authorization. Prepare to fire warning shots. Vilix 3 hesitated at his weapons console. Commander, they appear to be civilian craft with no military capability. Irrelevant. They are violating our security perimeter. Fire warning shots across their flight path. The Zephyrian ship's weapons fired bright energy beams that streaked across space in front of the mining shuttles. The small craft shook from the energy discharge, but they continued moving forward. Warning shots ineffective, Commander, Vilix 3 reported. Then target their engines. Disable them, but do not destroy. We may need them as additional evidence. Vilix 3 looked at his weapons display, then at his commander. Something inside his mind was screaming that this was wrong. These humans were only trying to rescue their offspring, something that seemed natural and proper to him now. Commander, perhaps we should attempt communication first. Sub-Commander, you will follow orders without question. Target their engines. At that moment, the detention area alarm began sounding. A guard's voice came through the communication system. Commander, the small human specimen has stopped breathing. Medical emergency in detention cell 12. Vilix 9 clicked his mandibles in annoyance. The specimen has expired. Not yet, Commander, but biological functions are failing rapidly. In the detention area, Katie Williams was pressed against her cell door, watching Emma through the small opening. The little girl was lying motionless, her chest barely moving. Emma, please wake up, Katie whispered. Your daddy's coming to get you. You have to hang on. Danny Cross was making noise in his cell, banging on the walls. Help her. Someone help. All 12 children were shouting now, their voices echoing through the detention area. The sound was unlike anything the Zephyrian guards had heard before. Pure human emotion, expressing fear and love and desperation. Sub-Commander, Vilix 3 made a decision that would change everything. Instead of targeting the approaching shuttles, he left his weapons console and ran toward the detention area. Sub-Commander, return to your station immediately, Vilix 9 commanded through the communication system. Vilix 3 ignored the order. He reached Emma's cell and quickly opened the door. The little girl was unconscious, her skin pale and her breathing very weak. Using his portable medical scanner, he could see that her body was shutting down. He gathered the small human in his arms and began running toward the ship's communication center. Behind him, he could hear Commander Vilix 9's angry voice, ordering guards to stop him. Vilix 3 reached the communication center and opened a channel to Captain Morrison's ship. Jake was trying to coordinate with the approaching shuttles when Amy suddenly turned from her console. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian ship. It's not there, Commander. The screen showed Sub-Commander Vilix 3 holding Emma's unconscious form. The alien's compound eyes seemed to show something. That looked almost like panic. Human Captain, this offspring is dying. Your medical knowledge? How do we save her? Jake stared at the screen in shock. One of the aliens was actually asking for help. You need to get her proper medical attention immediately. Our ship has a medical bay equipped for humans. I cannot authorize such action. I can provide you with our security codes and internal ship layout. Why would you do that? Vilix 3 looked down at Emma's pale face. Because I have learned something important. This small being has value beyond her function as evidence. The adult humans risk their lives to save her. This suggests she possesses something that transcends legal procedures. Yes, Jake said urgently. She has a family who loves her. They all do. I am transmitting the security codes now. But be warned, Commander Vilix 9 will resist any rescue attempt. The transmission ended as Zephyrian guards reached Vilix 3. Jake could hear the alien being arrested before the screen went dark. Ryan, did you get those codes? Jake asked. Yes, Captain. Also have detailed layout of their ship. Jake pressed the ship-wide communication button. All hands, prepare for emergency rescue operations. Amy, contact the shuttle pilots and tell them to stay back, we're going in. But as Jake was planning the rescue, more ships began dropping out of hyperspace around the planet. Human vessels from across the sector had received word about the detained children and were arriving to help. Captain Steve Parker's heavy cruiser UHS Vengeance appeared first. followed by Dr. Sam Rodriguez's medical ship UHS Mercy. Within an hour, 12 human ships had surrounded the planet. Steve Parker's voice boomed across all communication channels. Directed at the Zephyrian ship. You detained human children? Are you insane? The combined human fleet was an impressive sight. Cruisers, medical ships, cargo vessels, and even a few civilian craft had come from across human space. Word had spread quickly through the communication networks. Every human captain within range had changed course to help. On the Zephyrian ship, Commander Thylex 9 stared at his tactical display with growing alarm. I had expected to deal with one human ship, not an entire fleet. The humans had responded to the threat against their offspring, like a swarm protecting their nest. Communications officer, send a distress signal to the nearest Zephyrian fleet, he ordered. Already done, Commander. But the nearest ships are 6 cycles away. Thylex 9 realized he was in a very dangerous situation. The humans clearly considered the detained offspring worth fighting a war over. Something he had never imagined possible. Captain Morrison opened a channel to all human ships. This is Captain Morrison of the Defiance. We have intelligence on the enemy ship and a critically ill child who needs immediate medical attention. I'm going to lead a rescue team aboard their vessel. Jake, this is Steve Parker. My ship has the heaviest weapons. I'll provide covering fire. This is Dr. Rodriguez on the Mercy. We have full pediatric medical facilities standing by. Jake felt a surge of pride in his species. When human children were threatened, humans came together like nothing else could bring them together. Ryan, assemble a rescue team. Amy, coordinate with the fleet. Make sure those shuttles with the parents stay safely back. As Jake prepared to lead his team to the alien ship, he thought about what Sub-Commander Velox 3 had said. The alien had learned something about the value of individual life, about love and family bonds that his species had never understood. Maybe this crisis would teach the Zephyrians something important about humanity. But right now, Jake's only concern was getting those 12 children safely home. The rescue was about to begin. And the entire human fleet was ready to fight for their young. Captain Jake Morrison led his rescue team through the corridors of the Zephyrian ship. Using the security codes provided by Sub-Commander Velox 3, they had managed to board the alien vessel without triggering the main alarm systems. Behind him, Lieutenant Amy Brooks and 4 security officers moved quietly toward the detention area. The ship's interior was cold and unwelcoming, with gray metal walls and harsh lighting that hurt human eyes. Jake could hear the sounds of children crying somewhere ahead, and his heart raced as they got closer to their target. Captain, Amy whispered, I'm detecting 12 human life signs in the detention area, but one of them is very weak. Jake knew that had to be Emma Carter. Every second counted now. They reached the detention area just as Commander Thylex 9 arrived with his own security team. The Zephyrian commander was furious about Sub-Commander Deloxtree's betrayal and had come to prevent any rescue attempt. Human intruders, you will surrender immediately, Thylex 9 commanded, his forearms reaching for his weapons. Not a chance, Jake replied, raising his own weapon. We're here for the children. The standoff lasted only seconds before the sounds of children's voices broke the tension. Help us. We're in here. Katie Williams called out from her cell. Emma needs a doctor right now, Danny Cross shouted. Jake could hear the desperation in their young voices, and his protective instincts took over completely. Open those cells now, or we'll open them ourselves.
Oh.
These specimens are evidence in a legal proceeding. You have no authority here. They're not specimens, they're children. At that moment, the ship's communication system activated. A new voice spoke with more authority than Commander Thylex 9. This is High Commander Zalox Prime of the Zephorian Enforcement Fleet. Commander Thylex 9, report your status immediately. Thylex 9 activated his communication device. High Commander, human forces have boarded our vessel and are attempting to steal evidence. Jake stepped forward. High Commander, this is Captain Morrison of the human fleet. We're here to rescue children who are being held illegally. One of them is dying because of improper care. There was a long pause before Zalox Prime responded. Captain Morrison, I have been monitoring this situation from our approaching fleet. I have also reviewed the reports filed by Sub-Commander Villox 3 regarding the condition of the human offspring. Then you know they need immediate medical attention. I am beginning to understand that human offspring are not simple evidence to be stored. Sub-Commander Villox 3 has provided detailed documentation of their deteriorating condition and the emotional bonds between human adults and their young. Commander Thylix 9 clicked his mandibles in surprise. Hi, Commander. The legal procedures. REQUIRE. The legal procedures did not account for the unique nature of human family structures, Zelix Prime interrupted. I have spent the last several hours studying human behavior, particularly their response to threats against their offspring. Jake seized the opportunity. Hi, Commander, we have an entire fleet here because humans will do anything to protect their children. This isn't about territory or law. It's about family, yes, Captain Morrison. I am beginning to understand this concept. The response of your species to this situation has been most educational. Zelix Prime's voice became more formal. Commander, Thylex 9, you will release the human offspring immediately. The detention of sentient children for use as evidence is hereby declared improper under revised interpretation of galactic law. Thylex 9 stood frozen for a moment, unable to process this reversal of orders. Hi, Commander, the legal precedent will be changed based on new understanding. Open the detention cells. Jake felt relief flood through him as the cell doors began to open. The children stumbled out, frightened and weak, but alive. Katie Williams immediately ran to Emma Carter's cell, where the little girl was barely conscious. She needs help right now, Katie said to Jake, tears in her eyes. Amy Brooks was already on her communication device. Medical team to our location. Immediately, we have a critical patient. Dr. Sam Rodriguez's voice came through clearly. Captain Morrison, we're beaming medical equipment directly to your location. Our pediatric team is standing by. Within minutes, human medical personnel materialized on the Zephyrian ship with emergency equipment. Dr. Rodriguez knelt beside Emma, quickly assessing her condition. Severe dehydration and stress-induced shock, he reported, but she's going to be okay. Need to get her to the Mercy immediately. As the medical team worked to stabilize Emma, Jake gathered the other 11 children. They were all scared and weak, but seeing adult humans coming to rescue them had given them new strength. Are our parents okay? Katie asked. We heard shuttles. Approaching, they're fine, Jake assured her, waiting for you on the planet. Your dad was so worried about you, Katie. All the parents were. Danny Cross looked around at the Zephyrian guards. What about him? He asked, pointing to Sub-Commander Velox 3, who was standing under guard. Hi, Commander. Zelox Prime's voice came through the communication system again. Sub-Commander Velox 3 approached the communication station. Velox 3 walked forward, his compound eyes focused on the children he had helped save. Sub-Commander, your actions violated direct orders from your commanding officer. Yes, High Commander. I accept full responsibility. However, your actions also prevented the death of sentient beings and provided crucial information that has changed our understanding of human society. You will be reassigned to the new Human Zephyrian Cultural Exchange Division. Jake looked at Vilox 3 with new respect. You saved Emma's life. You saved all of them. I've learned something important, Captain Morrison. Individual life has value. Beyond function or law, the bonds between humans and their offspring are not weakness, but strength. Katie Williams walked up to Vilix 3 and did something that shocked everyone present. She hugged the alien's lower arm. Thank you for helping us, she said simply. Vilix 3 looked down at the small human clinging to his arm. The gesture filled him. With that strange new sensation he was learning to identify as compassion, the evacuation of the children proceeded quickly. The human fleet had medical ships ready to treat any health problems and transport vessels prepared to take the families home. Emma Carter was the first to be moved, carried carefully to the UHS Mercy, where human doctors could provide proper care. As the children were reunited with their parents on the planet's surface, Jake watched through the viewing screens of the Defiance. Pete Carter was holding Emma while she slept in a medical bed, tears streaming down his face. Katie Williams was surrounded by her entire family, everyone talking at once and holding her tight. High Commander Zelix Prime contacted Jake one final time. Captain Morrison, this incident has taught my people important lessons about your species. We did not understand the emotional bonds that drive human behavior. Protect our children above everything else, Jake replied. It's not something we can negotiate or compromise on. Understand that now. The Zephyrian Empire will establish new protocols for dealing with human colonies and families. We will also formally apologize to the colonists for our actions. That would mean a lot to them, High Commander. 6 months later, Jake received a message from Dr. Helen Grant at the Kepler 44-2b colony. The settlement was thriving now, with official Zephyrian recognition and protection. Emma Carter had recovered completely and was playing with her friends. In the colony's new school, most surprising of all, Commander Villox III had requested assignment to the colony as a cultural liaison. He was learning human customs and even participating in children's games. Trying to understand the family bonds that had changed his entire worldview, the incident became known throughout the galaxy as the Children's Fury. Other alien species took note that humans would risk everything for their young, even against superior military forces. No one ever again made the mistake of threatening human children. Katie Williams, now 17, had written a report about her experience that was shared across human space. Her final words became famous among human colonies. We learned that love is stronger than law, and family is worth fighting for. Some aliens learned that too. The galaxy was a little bit safer for human children, and a little bit more understanding of what made humanity special.